Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel. If you saw the last video regarding, it's one of these, my last video regarding my 2015 Lexus RC 350 F Sport, then you know that I got quoted a crazy amount for having the front rotors and pads replaced by a local Lexus dealership. In that video, I had mentioned that about the awesome deal I got on a full set of front rotors, pads, and the hardware kit from R1 Concepts. And this is actually the fourth set of brakes that I've used from them. And I wanted to give you a how-to video to show you what's needed to install the full one-piece cast rotors instead of the Lexus two-piece rotors that they would recommend and charge you for. I wanted to keep this video short and sweet, so please check it out. And if you like it, be sure to give the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends. I could also really use your help by subscribing to my channel. That'll help me out a lot, and please do that now. I appreciate it very much. All right, let's go ahead and get to the installation.
All right, so once you have your wheel off, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to show you back here. The first thing that you're going to need to do is on the brake caliper, there's this little cotter pin. You're going to pull that out, this rod here. It's like a tension bar kind of thing on this spring. I use a small screwdriver and just kind of push it. It can only go one direction, so you're going to push it out and just kind of pull it. You may need to like lighten some of the, or put some pressure on this spring to lighten up some of the pressure there. Just go ahead and pull that off. And then you're going to take a C-clamp and you're going to use that to basically tighten the pressure against the pistons. And so just use that little lip there, and then that'll allow you to pull out the old pads. Now this is a shot of the back of the caliper. So there's two bolts. They're 17 millimeter metric. So make sure you remove the right ones, but that's what's holding the caliper in to that bracket. So you're going to loosen those. Just be careful because the brake line is there, so you don't want to mess with that by accident when you're loosening these bolts. Go ahead and get those out, and then take the caliper, and I put a little 2-gallon bucket here behind the wheel, so I just set it there to rest it so there's no pressure on the brake line. Now your rotor may come off easily at this point, or it may not. If it doesn't, there's these two little holes you'll see. Sorry for the blurriness, it'll correct here in a second. So you basically put a bolt in there. I want to say this is like an 8 millimeter threaded bolt. I just had a bin of them, so I just got one that fit. But basically it's a 1/2 inch on the hex head itself, and you just tighten that. So you're gonna go righty tighty, and that will put pressure on the back plate behind the rotor, and it'll eventually break and then remove it. So basically that's just rusted to that hub there. So I got some brake cleaner. I'm just spraying this down, and use a wire brush to kind of clean it up a little bit, get some of that rust removed as best as you can. And then you're going to get some of this anti-seize. This is by Permatex, but you can use whatever brand of anti-seize, and just generously, but not too much, just kind of apply it to the little hub here. And that's going to help with preventing it from rusting again with this new rotor. Just kind of get in all the little threaded areas where the rust might get to. And then you're going to spray down the new rotor, clean that up. That just makes sure nothing's going to interfere with your pads and cause damage. And then put the new rotor on. Just use one of the lug bolts to hold it in place. That's a helpful tip there. And then on the shims that were on the back of the old pads, you're going to remove those, and then we're going to clean them up here with a wire brush, spray them down. You can see how dirty they are. And just kind of clean both of those up and set them aside. And the next thing here is we're going to apply some brake quiet kind of spray. This helps with preventing any unnecessary noise that might have been created otherwise. Put the new shims back on there, and then we're going to get the caliper. Now you see me putting the old pad in, and that's to go ahead and push those pistons back into their fully compressed position. So I'm using the C-clamp again. And this is probably the most pain in the ass part of the whole process, because you don't want to obviously put unnecessary tension on the brake line, but there's not a whole lot of room to work as well. So if you have a smaller clamp, that's probably better. This is the only one I had at the time. Just tighten that down, and you'll see the pistons move all the way in. And you do that for both sides. If you don't, you won't be able to get the new brake pads in, especially with the added brake pad material. So we're going to go ahead and put the caliper back over the rotor. And you're going to get those bolts started. Basically, once you press the pistons in, you're racing against a clock because they start to move back out on their own from the pressure of the brake lines or the brake fluid. So you're going to go ahead and get those hand tightened or just started, and then slide in the new pads, as you'll see me do here. One side will fit in easy for sure. The other one's going to be a little more snug, but it should get in there no problem. You do that for both. And then here we're just going to put the new brake hardware in. So we get that little spring clamp thing in there. It's a genius design by Lexus, by the way. I don't know if they came up with it, but this makes changing pads a lot easier. So put that little tension bar in there, tap it in place. There's a little hole for that cotter pin, so you're just going to slide that bad boy back in there. A little tough, but just be careful. It'll go in. And then we'll put our wheel back on. Get those lug nuts back on there, tighten them, and then drop the car, finish tightening them. You know, the standard process if you've done brakes before or replaced a tire. And then we're going to go ahead and do the road test. Okay, so I did a little bit of a road test, and basically with R1 concept brakes, as is usually the case with a lot of performance brakes, you have to kind of break them in. I think it's called bedding them in. And basically the way that works is, you know, where I live, there's not really an empty street nearby, so I kind of had to do this as best as I could. But you engage hard braking at from about 40 miles an hour without coming to a complete stop. Then you speed back up, jam on the brakes just before ABS is about to kick on. Then you get back down to about 10. Then you speed back up, do it over and over about 4 or 5 times. Then you get up to about 65 miles an hour, and then you slow it down to about 15. And then you're supposed to park and let the car cool down for like 20 minutes. Let the brakes cool down rather. So I was able to do that. And after completing that, letting the brakes cool, I did another little road test, and everything's been great. Haven't heard any excessive brake noise. That other squeal that was in my first video is gone, so that was addressed. There's no grinding, no pulsing or vibrating. So far, everything's going great. And like I said, this has been my experience with R1 concept brakes before. So I'm not paid by them, or they're not sponsoring my channel or anything. Just wanted to give you feedback as far as a cheaper option for some great brakes instead of paying $1,100 or $1,200 to a Lexus dealership for the two-piece rotors. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.